lot of it is really around sharing power, right? So as researchers, we often, know how to do the research. We're used to kind of working on our own, being in charge and having all the power. But if you really want to ensure that people who you want to research are a part of the entire process, that means sharing power, which is difficult if you've never done that before. And not necessarily because you don't want to, but because there are particular steps and ways to go about it that will be more effective. And so our curriculum is really just doing that, trying to help researchers understand communities, to understand principles of health equity, of anti-racism, of power sharing, etc., so that they can then go out into the community and have more equitable partnerships with the community members around the research studies that they're implementing.
And so I always say that community partners are coming to the table with their lived experience. They may not be trained as researchers, but they have important questions that need to be answered.
I think what researchers, really need to know is, again, with that shared power, yes, you went to school for what you know, right? You learned about what you know. That is your expertise area in what you do, but also respecting the fact that with families, with community members, same thing. But it's really about that lived experience. And how you begin to share power is developing a relationship where you talk about what you know, I talk about what I know, and how do we meet in the middle? There are things that we want to accomplish in this relationship, and it is like doing a dance. But it starts with that building relationship, having respect for each other based on what you know.
We gave the person entree to the community, introduced them to be able to do the work. But one of the things that we did notice is that the researcher was not very interested in community-based participatory principles such as power sharing, such as co-planning, doing the work in a collaborative manner. They were very much interested in maintaining this sort of hierarchical power struggle. At some point, we had to have forgive the religious reference, but a come to Jesus meeting, and really talk about what we will and will not do. And ultimately, the researcher pulled their research out and decided they didn't want to do it, and that's fine, because community-based participatory research is not for everybody.
In the environmental justice space, being involved in community-owned and operated research with community partners, they were really trying to understand exposures, really adverse exposures in their environment and implications for health. And the reasons why they wanted to own the process and lead the process, once again, in concert, in collaboration with researchers and academic institutions, is one, because they had been exploited in the past where they were not leading the process and the data that they thought would be available to them was no longer available to them. It was kept within the university setting, and those researchers were able to promote their careers and publish their work, but without benefit to the community. So that was one reason. The other reason is that they had important questions that they needed to answer, and they wanted that data to be able to disrupt the adverse environmental exposures that they were experiencing during that time. And so as a result, they were able to halt a number of even more adverse industrial exposures to their community. They were also able to influence policy, both locally across the state of North Carolina, which is where they were based, as well as nationally.
One of the coolest things that I've seen is a researcher at Boston University who is bringing together a group of adults with Down syndrome to do summer research projects. And he had all of these ideas about the kinds of research projects he wanted them to do. But they told him, no, we're interested in mood and loneliness and a whole variety of issues related to sort of psychological well-being. And I think 5 years ago, if someone had said, we're going to have a research study that's completely powered by investigators who have a significant intellectual disability, people would have said, there's no way, that won't work. But they've really worked from the ground up to build that out. And I think that's one of the most successful examples that we've seen of that kind of power sharing.